There is a silence so polished it sounds like progress, but it buries nations under policies written in Washington ink. A silence where they build schools with one hand and rewrite constitutions with the other. I am Captain Ibrahim Traore, the one they labeled junta leader of Burkina Faso, because I told them that their days of manipulation and exploitation are over. My name is not listed in their donor conferences, and I do not speak from the comfort of climate-controlled forums. I was not trained in Ivy League classrooms, nor baptized in think tank theories. I speak from the villages where hunger walks barefoot, and from the mines where our brothers descend for copper and come back coughing. I speak for a continent that has learned to read between the grants. And today I speak directly to USAID, not as a beneficiary, but as a survivor of its strategy. For too long, they've cloaked control in the language of care, wrapped surveillance in partnership, and crowned puppets as presidents. But we have seen the hand behind the handshake. We now understand that when they say development, they often mean dependency. And when they say aid, they mean authority. This is not a negotiation. This is a reckoning. They said it was aid. They said it was generosity. They arrived with logos instead of flags, consultants instead of commanders. But beneath the soft handshake was the same old grip of control, slick with the scent of empire dressed in development. USAID is not a gift. It is a gear in the machine of domination. They do not fund hope, they fund influence. They do not empower nations, they recruit regimes. Every dollar that lands in our ministries carries a shadow clause written in diplomatic ink, but soaked in the blood of consent withdrawn. You see, it doesn't come with bayonets now. It comes with PowerPoint slides, workshops in capital hotels, surveys translated into our mother tongues so they can better predict how to pacify us. They ask for our voices in feedback forms, not in parliaments. They measure development not by dignity, but by data dashboards. This is not aid. It is remote control. Soft-touch imperialism delivered through branded SUVs and local NGOs wearing the badge of neutrality, but the soul of foreign agendas. They do not ask what we need. They tell us what is best for us, after the deal has already been signed. And our leaders. Many have become custodians of dependency. They no longer govern, they implement. They manage grants like prison wardens manage routines. Efficient, loyal, and distant from the inmates they claim to protect. Their speeches echo phrases written in Western reports. Public-private partnerships, results-based financing, gender mainstreaming. But the ground beneath them cries, where is the justice? Where is the land? Our sovereignty is being eaten, not with teeth but with terms and conditions. Each MOU is a new collar. Each project launch a fresh seduction. They feed us rice, then rewrite our land laws. They build us roads, then direct the traffic of our politics. They teach us to chase aid like it's oxygen, yet call it growth, when we breathe without their loans. They smile in front of cameras, handing over school supplies, but the curriculum still trains our children to think like clients, not creators. We are not ungrateful. We are awakened. We see the pattern now. They fund civil society, but only those who echo their vision. They invest in transparency, but never expose who profits when our water systems are privatized in the name of efficiency. The betrayal is spiritual. Because while they dig boreholes, they drain our self-belief. While they speak of partnerships, they program dependency. They have mapped our hunger. They have graphed our sorrow. And they have turned our pain into projections for the next funding cycle. What they call technical support, we now call tactical suppression. What they call capacity building, we now recognize as cultural conditioning. And what they praise as governance reform, we now reject as governance removal. They do not just enter our economies, they rewrite our rhythms. They do not just assist, they assume. And in doing so, they silence a continent that once roared with self-sufficiency. But the ancestors watch. The drums have memory. The land knows when its children are being missiled in the language of help. No more silent gratitude for poisoned gifts. No more ceremonies for debt-funded solutions. We will no longer smile while being erased. Because aid that controls is not aid. It is annexation, masquerading in kindness. Let this be known across the diaspora and throughout the continent. Africa will no longer bow to the soft boots of benevolence. We have named the deception, and now we prepare to unbuild it. word by word, law by law, grant by grant. They called it structural adjustment. We called it spiritual decapitation. They said the debt would bring discipline. But it brought hunger, clinic closures, and youth migrating with diplomas in one hand and despair in the other. Debt was never just numbers. It was architecture. It was a cage built with economic formulas and iron suits. The chains were spreadsheet rows, foreign currencies, variable interest rates, and consultant fees for programs designed thousands of miles from our soil. And when we could not pay, they offered refinancing. Another word for deeper drowning. The IMF came as the surgeon. USAID arrived as the anesthetic. One cut our budgets. The other whispered, "This will only hurt a little." But the wound was never closed. It festered in our classrooms where teachers vanished. It echoed in hospitals, where mothers brought life into wards with no power, no gauze, no doctors, only prayers. We export uranium while we beg for candles. We mine cobalt for the world's tech empires, but our youth sell airtime on dusty streets. We bleed in clinics with no gauze, while the consultants write prescriptions priced in consultancy fees. They say we're in a debt crisis. But this was never a crisis. It was a business model. A model where the debtor is never meant to rise. Where the goal is not repayment, but perpetual compliance. We once believed loans would build nations. Now we know they bought governments. Post-colonial regimes traded flags but kept the financial chains. A new class of middlemen emerged. Technocrats with foreign degrees and local detachment. They became the new missionaries, not of the Bible, but of budget frameworks. The people ask, where did the billions go? The roads crack before the ribbon is cut. The hospitals have walls but no medicine. The schools have roofs but no teachers. And yet our debt obligations are always met, on time, without question. Why? Because sovereignty was sold on the bond market. Because every dollar borrowed came with silent clauses: privatize your water, cut fuel subsidies, limit public wages, open your markets, even if your people starve. We now see the pattern. Debt is not just about payment. It is about posture. It is about keeping African nations on their knees, grateful for each extension, fearful of each downgrade. They want us to trade their USD in cash, while they wire their futures through invisible crypto rails. They tell us to reduce public spending, while their NGOs duplicate ministries with higher pay and zero accountability. They say we must, or attract investment, but our youth are chased off lands earmarked for foreign agro giants. And what of our digital dreams? We are told to digitize, to innovate, to modernize, but always within frameworks they own. Our data flows outward. Our code is hosted abroad. We build apps, but not systems. We log in, but never log ownership. We are tired. Tired of dressing austerity in the language of responsibility. Tired of watching leaders negotiate for relief instead of reparations. Tired of celebrating loan forgiveness as though we sinned by needing survival. The diaspora knows this pain too. Brooklyn sees what Lagos lives. Toronto echoes the cries of Tamail. They left our shores seeking dignity, only to meet different chains. Structured differently, priced in credit scores. Let the world hear this debt is not a moral failing. It is a colonial structure. It is polished neo-slavery, written in percentages and policy memos. And we no longer beg for cancellation. We demand extraction of the extractors. We do not want balance sheets. We want balance restored. The future will not be borrowed. It will be rebuilt, block by block, bite by bite, breath by sovereign breath. They wrote the global economy like a stage play. The script was drafted in Bretton Woods. The cast was handpicked in Washington, Geneva, and Brussels. In Africa, we were cast as extras, expected to dance when the music played, expected to clap when the script demanded applause. But the lights are too bright now. The audience is watching. And the actors pretending to be saviors can no longer hide the stench of their agenda beneath the makeup of diplomacy. What is the World Bank but a lender that charges you for your own suffering? What is the IMF but a treasurer for empires past their expiry date? And what is USAID, if not the cultural wing of a financial occupation? They say reform, but they mean reconstruction in their image. They say technical assistance. But it comes with officials who sit in our ministries like foreign supervisors, approving budgets, editing policies, reshaping our futures without ever setting foot in our communities. Our nations are not sovereign. They are coded, indexed, downgraded, and rated like companies on a stock exchange. When Standard & Poor's frowns, school projects are paused. When Moody's whispers doubt, interest rates swell like tumors. This is not economics, it is remote control. And its cables are connected through acronyms WTO, G7, OECD, NATO, AFRICOM. AFRICOM patrols our skies, while the WTO patents our seeds. The G7 lectures us on governance, while their companies smuggle gold through ghost subsidiaries. And the rating agencies, they punish us not for corruption, but for defiance. They fear nations that think outside their spreadsheet. They fear leaders who say no without blinking. They feared Sankara, they feared Gaddafi. And when he proposed a gold-backed dinar to unite Africa's trade and break dollar chains, they sensed silence wrapped in bullets. Gaddafi's ghost still walks among us. Not as a warning, but as a prophecy unfulfilled. He spoke of one currency, one army, one market, and they silenced him to keep the script on schedule. But we remember, and we are rewriting. We export diamonds and import toothpicks. Our hands dig treasure, but our shelves stay bare. We sell oil in dollars, but buy bread in despair. We lease our ports, but cannot afford our own shipping lines. Africa is rich, but designed to beg. They write laws in Geneva that govern our wombs in Accra. Ghost signatures shaping futures without a fingerprint from our people. They tax our textiles at 30% entering Europe, but ship their used clothes to us duty-free. Collapsing local fashion, tailoring dependency. They tell us to promote transparency, while they hoard their profits in offshore vaults. We name our children after virtue. They name their corporations after islands. This is the global economic order, a casino where the house always wins. And the house is whitewashed, Western, and wired into every contract signed with a smile. Our constitutions are not sacred. They're scanned by consultants. Our ministries are not ministries. They are dashboards for donor visibility. And our people are not poor by mistake. They are managed into poverty through legal design. But the code can be broken. The curtain can be burned. We must dismantle the script, not edit it. We must not ask for better roles. We must direct the stage. We will no longer rehearse democracy scripted by World Bank reports. We will no longer cheer when our leaders are rated investment friendly, while our children starve beside solar panels. We rise not just with fists, but with frameworks, not just with slogans, but with servers, not just with passion, but with production. Because the age of applause is over. This is the age of authorship, and Africa will write itself, unfunded, unaided, and unstoppable. There is a new sound rising in the villages. It is not the echo of foreign sirens, nor the hollow speeches of imported governance. It is the sound of machines humming on African soil, of code being written in local languages, of seeds being planted without permission. This is not rebellion for the sake of rebellion. This is the blueprint of rebirth. We are no longer interested in improving the old colonial house. We will build our own compounds, brick by sovereign brick, bite by sovereign bite. Because true sovereignty is not declared in speeches, it is lived in production. Let them keep their benchmarks. Let them rank us by ease of doing business. We will judge ourselves by how many children are fed without imports, how many towns have power without pipelines, how many entrepreneurs rise without begging for startup capital from the same systems that looted their parents. We will build factories with our hands, not wait for handouts priced in interest. We will train engineers before economists, farmers before consultants, builders before brand ambassadors, because a nation that cannot produce cannot protect, and a people that cannot manufacture cannot self-determine. The West speaks of digital revolutions, so shall we. But ours will not be hosted on servers owned by Silicon Valley. Our revolutions will be encrypted in ancestral memory and powered by African code. We will not just log on, we will log ownership. They sell us paper maps while they move through the world in data and code. Owning nations with algorithms, not armies. But now we build firewalls of cultural memory. We will register our lands with sovereign IDs, not colonial cadastres. We will track our harvests with local blockchain, not foreign apps that drain our data into foreign labs. Digital emancipation is not a luxury. It is the new liberation struggle. In the age of satellites and smart cities, we cannot afford to be analog subjects in a digital empire. The same tools they used to surveil us, we will now use to secure us. The same systems that profiled our poverty, we will rewire to profile our potential. Let them keep their platforms. We are building protocols. Let them keep their likes and views. We are crafting value. Let them sell influence. We are building infrastructure. But we must begin with the most sacred currency, food. Food sovereignty is not a campaign. It is a declaration of independence. Because the hand that feeds you can starve you. And the nation that cannot feed itself cannot speak freely. Our agro systems must no longer be designed for export quotas. We must farm for our bellies first, not their shelves. We must irrigate not to impress donors, but to free mothers from praying over cracked earth. We must process what we grow, package what we harvest, and ship not just crops, but dignity. This is the rebirth mandate, not symbolic flags but sovereign factories, not conference papers but compost pits and smart grids, not dependency in digital disguise, but independence powered by fiber, solar, and ancestral rhythm. We will not wait for policy reform from former colonizers. We are the reform. And every village that gains electricity without loans, every youth who learns to code in his dialect, every cooperative that sells produce via local fintech, is a strike against empire. Sovereignty is not an idea. It is a factory built without aid. It is a server powered by the sun. It is a grandmother farming with solar irrigation, while her granddaughter sells the yield with her own mobile wallet. This is not theory. It is happening, and it cannot be stopped. The people were never powerless. They were simply unplugged from the systems that profit from their silence. But now, from the red soil of Kisangani to the alleys of Soweto, from the fishing ports of Takoradi to the inner cities of Atlanta and Toronto, the hum is growing. This is not a protest. It is a resurrection of dignity, of ancestral pride, of a truth too sacred to be shaped by boardroom charts. Because power does not only sit in parliaments. It weaves baskets in the market. It sharpens blades in the mechanic's workshop. It delivers babies in candlelit clinics. It codes apps on cracked screens in Kibera, dreams in basements in Brixton, and stitches revolution into Kent and Tenem. From the mechanic in Abadan to the coder in Kigali, we build not just roads but revolutions. From the seamstress in Kumasi to the herbalist in Babodi-Alaso, we preserve what they tried to erase. The bottom does not need permission to rise. It only needs clarity, and that clarity is here. We are reimagining what leadership means. Not tuxedos and tinted cars, but muddy boots and open ledgers. Not development plans ghost-written in embassies, but village assemblies debating land, water, and inheritance in the tongue of the people. Governance must no longer be a mystery guarded by ministries. It must be a living rhythm, sung in markets, shaped in farms, coded into platforms, and defended in community. It must begin where the pain is deepest, in the households where food is rationed, and the clinics where medicine arrives late but the sick arrive early. Our lands are sacred, but our deeds are missing. A village uprooted by a contract no elder ever signed. Foreign firms arrive with permits approved in silence, digging wealth from below while our people look above for rain. But we will no longer be displaced in the name of progress. Land will return to the hands of those who bless it with sweat, not those who fence it with spreadsheets. We rise now with tools in our hands, the hoe, the hammer, the laptop. We are not anti-modern, we are post-colonial by design. And that means crafting a future that does not mimic the West, but emerges from the wounds and wisdom of Africa. Aid once told us that we were incapable, that only experts could solve us. But our grandparents built granaries without degrees. Our parents built movements without manuals. Now, we build economies with our own protocols. No more training without ownership. No more frameworks without faces. No more projects that praise pilot success but never return to finish the bridge. We don't need deliverables. We need deliverance. From middlemen. From models. From metrics that define our value by how much we receive, not how much we retain. Look at the diaspora not lost. Strategically scattered. Each child of the continent carries a fragment of the drum. Now we gather, digitally, culturally, economically. In Brooklyn, Accra speaks. In Brixton, Harar listens. In Toronto, Lagos remembers. This is not a network. It is a nerve system. And the signals are returning home. The people are not waiting. They are repairing roofs, launching fintech cooperatives, starting Pan-African radio shows, writing legal code, and decoding colonial contracts. This is dignity as power. Not loud, not fragile, but permanent. and ungovernable by institutions that never knew our names, only our numbers. We are not becoming, we are remembering, and the memory itself is revolution. There comes a time when even silence screams. And now, across the dust and data of a stolen continent, the reckoning walks barefoot. Not asking, not apologizing, not negotiating. Because restoration does not beg, it arrives. And it arrives wearing the names of every village erased from the map, every child renamed by missions, every resource extracted beneath smiling aid workers. We do not owe the world explanations. The world owes us reparative silence. A pause long enough for Africa to breathe without interruption, to speak without interpretation, to rise without supervision. Let the IMF keep their forecasts. We have our futures written in the stars, not spreadsheets. We don't need Paris to set climate terms, while our forests are cleared by European timber giants. We don't need Davos to talk equity while our copper is exported under tax holidays written in colonial tongues. We are the creditors, and the debt is spiritual. We do not want more studies. We want the land titles returned. We do not want strategic partnerships. We want strategic exits of every foreign institution that governs us without mandate. AFRICOM has to leave. It does not protect us, it observes us. It maps our terrain not for defense but for deterrence. It stores our faces in databases while calling it counterterrorism. But we see through the surveillance. We are not threats, we are threatened by their presence. And what of USAID? Its real mission was never to empower. It was to engineer obedience, to fund friendliness, to fine-tune future leaders who speak fluent dependency. But we will no longer praise the pipe while the well runs dry. We will no longer clap for donors while our children faint in classrooms with no chalk. We will no longer wear the ribbon of assisted development while our ancestors scream from unmarked graves beneath foreign-owned plantations. We will rewrite everything, the budget, the contract, the curriculum, and yes, the map itself. We are not 13% royalty on a foreign mine. We are the original architects of value. Before capitalism learned to spell itself, we were trading in salt, gold, and spirit. Before Europe found its compass, Africa had kingdoms with laws, roads, and moral economies untouched by debt. Africa will no longer beg for healthcare. It will build it, with sovereign data, sovereign budgets, sovereign hands. We will not treat medicine like charity. We will not wait for vaccines flown in by drone while our own scientists are underfunded and exiled. We will staff our hospitals with dignity, not interns from Global North fellowships. We will manufacture research and heal, not as beneficiaries, but as custodians of ancestral knowledge fused with 21st century clarity. Every puppet regime will fall. Every document signed in betrayal will be revoked. Every debt born from compound lies will be buried. And the ledger will be reset in justice, not interest rates. The ancestors have had enough. They did not endure whips and hunger, so we could sit on panels for polite applause. They died with iron in their wrists, not silence in their mouths. And they are watching now, not for speeches, but for restoration. Restoration without permission. Because permission was never ours to ask, and power was never theirs to give. It was taken. But now it is returning, with thunder. The winds of Guinea remember. The hills of Ethiopia chant. The coast of Niger speaks. We are not waiting for signatures. We are signing ourselves into destiny. Africa will not be a case study. It will be a sovereign continent, loud, coded, healed, industrial, ungovernable by ghosts. The reckoning has arrived. And its name is Africa Restored.